Alright, so I had a note from last night.
So if I want speed,
I had a note from last night from watching another one. I think it was the four parts. It was, tensors, you had vectors, you
you gotta
had
take the magnitude of
collations.
the
I was watching
sky,
that one.
magnitude in your own words.
And so
How
he's
do you
going
find
through a lot on the
magnitude of
board.
any vector ever?
And again, when I'm using Planck as velocity, believe me, it's a cheat answer. Just because I didn't want to put a V in there, and as soon as I started that problem, I'd moved 2 steps. I didn't realize what I was doing. And so instead of doing it, I just had respect to X. I'm not going to get into the black body and vibration and waves on it. But what I'm just going to do is say, when I go to explain that, the first thing I have to do, now that I know that form is in that form, is simplify it. You know you're going to hit them. The acceleration on that's going to go from 0 to 60 as soon as that math teacher knows that should have been velocity and acceleration, probably right off the hop, if on the syllabus. But can you do that? Outside the shop, sure. Let me show you an example of an equation that I wrote. It's very different, and I specifically designed it like a hot garbage equation. I wanted it to be Smash Brothers in
Now, these fractions inside of square roots, they're not so much
inside of the system,
especially
because I'm
if we have to
basically
start
working
doing
in terminal
other things with this. So
velocity.
we're going to get rid of this. Here's how to do that if you're forced to, if you have to do it.
In Super Mario's game, while pulling a magic trick of the rabbit out of the hat and passing it through the keyhole.
4t.
Now, it's a pretty formal class. Right, that's going to take 45 minutes or an hour for us to go through that. What is sigma sum? What is I0? What is K0? How does that, when I change those positions to I1, to I or K0? Now, that's a very small portion that you will see in mathematics. But there is no formal equation in Drax to say B sigma sum inside here has energy and field theory equation, and it will pop up in this form for my classroom. There's no real formal way to determine that short of graphing the velocity and acceleration and finding out that on the wobbles on the other side that all that information makes reality. These again are more formal. You don't have to know Leonard specifically because you read a book on somebody who did velocity and acceleration. And so again, that's going to go into what is sigma sum. Sigma sum is the entirety of this book. Is it set to I? Is it set to K? Is it set to I0? I1? Kelvin 0? Molecular life is set in here 1? Or you can add Bernoulli's values to these equations in the stone mill. Change out the scale house design. Use your own scale house to do these values. Is it still sigma sum I0, K0 equals A squared plus B squared? Well, sure. And in lieu of somebody's technique, x plus y or x squared plus y squared? Sure. But it's not really practical. And if I walk into there like some doomslayer with that equation, you got to deal with the velocity and acceleration of that when you don't need that energy. You don't need to do energy like that if these values equally do that. Most often, Doomslayer and Doomslayer Arena over here.
It's a scalar function. There's no vector here.
That's the nature of those things. As the brother, I want you to use her technique. I want you to use more of that version. On the other side of that, I often take her and I say, let's bump up the aggression here a little bit. Let's bust up the motivation and try to get it in that way, because I'm changing the velocity and acceleration. I'm marking it, understanding it, trying to do a reaction against that. A plus B equals, in parentheses, this thing in the pipes, which has velocity. I'm watching it, see how it affected. Did it have the positive effect I was looking for? Did it have a neutral state I was looking for? Did it have a negative effect that I was looking for on the snowflake? Because that would be a real position in time-space. And that's the coffee coffee cup on the general's desk that says the topology has to do with my desk being all a mess and I spilled my coffee. And that area on the map has terminal velocity. Catch you on the next one.